Okay, welcome to Hopeifiers. My name is the acapellist or Alan Friesen. With me is Brother Scott Sweetman. How you doing tonight, Brother Scott? Muted friend. Can't hear you. Huh. Okay, try again, Scott. Hi there. We're just having a little technical difficulty. Scott is trying to get himself connected, and then we will go from there. While I'm talking to you, let me tell you about the Brothers Corin. Have you ever heard about these guys? Koren, Brothers Corin. Anyways, they have this amazing program where they're trying to get you to restore your voice, your unique human instrument that everyone has, and that about how you discover this voice and use this voice. So let me just see if I got this up here, because what I'll do is I'll share this a little bit while Scott is getting his stuff together. Okay, it's not that. Not that. I got like 6 different windows open for YouTube. One of them is it. No. All right. I don't know where it is. Huh. Anyways, it's this. They're basically just trying to have folks. Oh, there he is. Scott.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear
Nothing.
me. I can hear you. Huh. Okay. Okay. How about now? No? Shit. Talk, Scott.
How about now, Al? Can you hear anything?
I can hear you.
It's just settings in
Oh,
StreamYard. I can't alter them. Just a sec here. How about Al? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
And I can hear you. There's
Oh,
something.
good. Okay,
There's something
good. We're good to go.
just kicks my mic into mute every once in a while. I don't know why.
Okay, good.
Anyway,
Jesse said that he could hear both of us, so that was good news. So, okay, we're on track, Brother Scott. We got audio, we got video. What are we going to talk about?
we're going to talk about hope in the holiday season in 2022 because there's a lot going on and a lot of things have changed. There's some new things we're facing this year that we haven't in the past, and there's been changes in our attitude. There's been some interesting studies about how Canadians are feeling about the holidays this year compared to when the COVID restrictions and things first hit. So I want to share some of those things with you and talk with that a bit as people get ready for the holiday season.
Excellent. Excellent. We hope your plans are going well for your holiday season, that you're going to get together with loved ones and spend some time together with people you care about and have some amazing food and some quality restorative time. I hope that's all what's going to happen in your future. And what do we got there, Scott? Where are you kicking us off at, my friend?
Well, it's interesting. There was a survey done between 21 and 22 in there, and over half of Canadians said that they are more hopeful for a positive holiday experience this year than they have been for the last 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah. And they credited that with their ability to see friends and family in person.
Yes.
You remember, most of us remember how during the most severe lockdowns, you couldn't even go to funerals or weddings or those things. And it really took a toll psychologically and in terms of mental health on our communities and families and those things. So, and 63% of people who donate, 66% of people are going to volunteer, have indicated that their hope is fueled because of the, I don't want to say lack of restrictions, because of the more open atmosphere heading into 2022 holidays,
Sure.
that those increases now see 63% of people donating money again and 66% of people volunteering again in some way during the
Yeah, yeah.
holidays,
Cool.
which is way up. If you remember, during the COVID restrictions, many people who wanted to volunteer couldn't because
Yes.
they didn't have the vaccinations or they didn't feel that they wanted to get them for many, many reasons.
Yes. And that's awesome now that people are getting the encouragement that they can get together with people again, volunteer together. Oh, that's beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if donations have also been following suit, that we've seen a big bump up in donations now. Is that true too? Or do you know?
It says that people donating is up considerably to 66%, I think, from an all-time low over the last 5 years of 30 some percent. So it's almost doubled from the low.
Right.
There wasn't any dollar amount attached to that. I
Got it.
think
Just percentage, but yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think we're going through an inflationary recession, and I think that that's causing, you know, havoc with most people's budget. So on one hand, it's very interesting. On one hand, we're seeing record numbers of Canadians that are worried about food security. You know, one in four, is that the most recent? Adults have skipped meals to try and ensure that their family has enough food through the winter months. So on one hand, we have that, but then the holiday season, I always think of a song, you being a music man, and it's been a song that's meant a lot to me throughout the years, and it's called "If We Make It Through December." Do you know
Oh,
that
yeah.
song?
Okay. Yeah.
And it's
Uh-huh.
a country.
Oh, dropped your mic again there, Scott. You moved and dropped your mic. You back?
How about that? Does that work?
There you go. You're back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little voice in my ear that is muted, unmuted.
Yeah. If we make it through December. So that's,
Yeah,
that's not a very hopeful type perspective, but hopefully for
it
our
it
world.
is, yeah. It's about, and it's a country song, and I remember some winters on the farm where it was pretty much, if we made it through December, then we could get through January, and then then it would start to warm up, calving season, and all those things. So
Yeah.
a lot of people feel a lot of stress during the holidays, and we've
True.
talked about that a lot. And I was just excited to see that, in a big picture sense, from 10,000 feet, that Canadians are more hopeful this season than
Yeah.
we've been in a few years, right?
Yeah.
So, talking about mental health, something you and I like to talk about a lot because it's so important to everyone.
Sure.
And one thing that you and I are championing, you in particular, I'm sort of your cheerleader behind you, is that we all need mental tune-ups. We don't have to be sick to reach out and get a tune-up. You don't wait till your car is breaking down to change the oil. You change the oil regularly to keep it healthy.
Yeah.
We go in and have our blood taken, we have our teeth checked, but it hasn't been, there's been so much stigma attached to it that mental health, in the past, we haven't been very good about taking care of ourselves in that way.
No, we
Right.
have not, and we've been, so reluctant to do that. And there should be no reluctance. There is no stigma. There is mental health problems are the same as any other problems that a human being can have, and just like get the help. Use your EFAP if you've got it. Use your psychology benefits. Talk to a friend, call a friend, and say, "I'm struggling. This is hard,"
Yeah.
right? And that's okay.
And the message that you've been getting out, with a little bit of help from us, is that you don't have to wait until you're sick. You don't have to wait till you look in the mirror and say, boy, I've got a problem, I need to see somebody here.
Right.
I'm thinking about self-harm, or I'm thinking about, in a really dark place. Don't wait to that time. Go in like you would for your prostate checkup or your mammogram, and just have a mental health practitioner. And I know that my GP always checks on all of our family's mental health and asks if we wanted to see some, not that he thinks our family is crazy, but to him as a medical practitioner, it's the same as saying, when was the last time we checked your blood sugar levels? Have you had an eye test recently? It's like your mechanic saying, well, we should, change the antifreeze. We're heading into winter. The car will run better.
Yep.
Those kind of things. So
You bet. Yeah. No, that's
I did
good. That's
see that one. Sorry, Al.
No, you go. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that it's exciting that 1/3 of Canadians, 32%, are feeling less anxiety about the pandemic. This and vaccination. They're connected, obviously. Right. And that was the double-edged sword with this particular situation, is that on one hand, everyone, or lots of people, were scared about the pandemic, but then there was lots of people that were scared about the vaccination and what it meant, and that it wasn't tested properly, and that it was mandatory, and all of these things.
Yeah, a lot of people felt they're being forced to take something, put something in their body that they thought was wrong to put in their body, right? Or they at least suspected that it would be a problem. So yeah, it's been a challenging time, but that's great that hope and optimism are up, and we're going to see our families. Well, I'm going to see my daughter. I haven't seen her for 4 years. I'm pretty excited.
Oh, is she coming up, or you're going down?
She's coming to December next week. She's going to be coming here. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That just made my whole evening.
I'm very excited about it. Yeah,
because she's got a border to cross. Our viewers may or may not know that, but it wasn't just coming home for the holidays. She had an international border to get across there. So,
and she was saying she's got some kind of problem with her work permit, blah blah blah, and then she had to get a updated thing sent to her. And if it doesn't come to her before she leaves to get on the plane to come to us, then she'll have to pay another $550 to get back into the States to go back to work. So just like,
ouch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Sabrina's in Tokyo. Sabrina's in Tokyo, and Fleur's going for New Year's.
Nice.
There was some confusion. Her boyfriend was going to be coming for Christmas, but he got a break earlier, so he came earlier. So nobody's going to be there Christmas Day, but Fleur's flying over. She leaves here January 31st, is in the air New Year's Eve, and arrives there New Year's Day at 2 p.m.
Wow.
So,
cool.
Same thing as Caitlin. She's got forms to fill out, and if she doesn't get this one, then she has to pay an extra fine, and if she doesn't get this, they could refuse her entrance, and all kinds of things.
Oh my goodness.
But
I just talked to a lady, Anna, who had flown here from Phoenix to come to an event that I was at, and she was saying, oh man, air travel is not what it used to be. It's like you get on and roll the dice of when or how it's going to happen, that you're actually going to get to the location you were planning, and what time it's going to happen, like what day even. Like it's just like, whatever, we're not running this flight anymore, so get a cab, wait for a day. It's just kind of bizarre type stuff like that, So
well, and that caused a lot of anxiety, if you remember, because there was people that were just getting abandoned in airports and overseas and in all sorts of places. And the research is showing that the confidence is returning in the travel industry. One of the things, and me in research, one of the things I looked at was psychological studies and papers on this issue. And one of the things that was prevalent is not to set firm expectations in a time like this. So, it might not be best to tell your kids, we're going to go to grandma and grandpa's for the holidays. And then when you can't, that causes a lot of anxiety. Plus, then you have to deal with why can't you go if you're sharing that with your children. And experts are up in the air whether, most say you should explain at least at a rudimentary level what's going on in terms of epidemics, pandemics, those types of things. Little people can process that. So, But anyway, the final study that Canada Post did, called the Hopefulness Survey, estimates that in-person visits, connecting online, gift giving, receiving gifts have the strongest impacts they've had for seasons, for maybe the last 5 years. And like we've talked about in the past, is when you have a time of trouble or a time of struggle, often you appreciate things really much more than you did before. And this study sort of hints at that maybe we were getting I'll go next year, I'll call mom, I don't need to see her. And then suddenly we didn't have that choice to go, and it became a big deal, right? And so the study looks like a lot of people are saying, you know what, yeah, we're going to go this year. We're not going to just call.
Yeah.
Although it's hinting at that connecting online has become more acceptable and more intimate, that it doesn't seem, I want to try and phrase it right, that relationships can exist online
Sure.
with
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
much veracity and as much genuineness and as much intimacy as they have in person. And that's been an education for us. Now we're seeing businesses, you and I do a lot of business over the internet, and it's always great to see each other in person, but it's become normal. Most of our clients now we don't see in person. You still do a lot of in-person visits though, right?
About a third of the visits I have that are in person now. So like most of them are happy with doing it on Zoom, but about a third of the clients say, no, we'd prefer an in-person meeting, which is totally fine. So yeah, so we go do that then. Yeah, it's been great.
My mom called last week, and last couple of years she's done it every Christmas, and we get the lecture about, I don't want you to come up, I don't want you to get sick, let's just arrange to get together on the phone. She's sort of got out of computers in the manor where she lives now, and she's being honest. She'll be much happier for the holidays if she knows we're home and safe and not driving around or exposing ourselves to whatever may be going on out there. And that's a shift, right? I know when I was growing up, there was always a demand. I remember when Fleur and I first either started living together or got married. We lived together before we got married. Yeah. 5 whole years. Fleur's mom was sick and we couldn't get married when we planned on it. But on Christmas Day, we would have to go to my family's house, and in Bentley, so west and a little bit north of Red Deer, and in the same Christmas Day, make it to Brooks, so that both mothers were happy. That and they weren't at that stage where we could alternate yet. Finally, after we got married, we put the law down and said, well, we're going to have 3. One at my mom's, one at your mom's, and one we're staying home at our house for Christmas. So
you felt you could do that after you corrected your living in sin stage, that you thought that you could be responsible citizens at that point, eh?
Yeah, or we just couldn't take those stress. I remember so many Christmas dinners at the Kentucky Fried Chicken in Airdrie because it was the only place that was open between the 2 points. And if the roads weren't too bad, it wasn't a bad trip. But if the roads were bad,
that's ugly.
We'd be looking at each other and thinking, where are they going to hold the funeral if we get killed on the road between the 2 houses?
Exactly.
So I think some of that silliness has gone away. I don't.
Well, look at your mom. I mean, your mom is, satisfied enough with a connection over phone or Zoom that she would prefer you not take the risk of traveling, right? That's surprising, but I think that's just, she's comfortable enough with that connection for her, right? So it seems.
Well, and I think it's important that people share that. Like, I know that yourself, you were very disappointed when Caitlin couldn't come up, but not resentful, right? No. And there's a difference in that, and you have to be careful when you're communicating with friends, partners, family, that there's a difference between, I'm sad that we can't see each other, but I think it's best that, we don't travel, or that because of COVID or whatever the situation, but not to resent a person if they make a choice.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense.
We were all forced into that choice, right? With the whole vax, not vax thing, True. Whether, and how do you judge somebody that's been your friend your whole life and say, well, I'm not going to be your friend because you choose to do this or you choose not to do this? Or families. I know my family was about 70-30 for vaccination. Not my immediate family. We all got vaxxed, but I mean my cousins and things.
Extended family.
There was maybe 30% who just didn't want to put the medicine into their bodies, and they stayed home and wore masks and did those things, but they just were not going to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Cool.
It's interesting. I'm glad we don't have to face that this year.
Yeah.
So going back to the Canada, Research Canada's hopefulness survey, I love it. They stole our idea, right? They did a survey about hope. It made me happy.
We'll give them that. We're totally fine in supporting them in that endeavor. So that's great.
Yeah, and what we were talking about is learning to appreciate, and I know this is something you're really big on, gratitude and appreciation, and what effect that has on your mental health. Not your, everyone's mental health, right?
Can I share one thing with you today that I watched, and it was through David Irvine. I don't know if you know who David Irvine is.
I've heard the name, yeah.
Yeah, he's a Alberta-based life coach, really knowledgeable man. But he had a speaker on, and she is a very senior administrator with like the Alberta government, that kind of a thing. She's a very interesting, very dynamic woman, and her brother had been murdered like about 10 years ago. And so this horrible thing happened, and she like was expressing how much anger and rage she had at this, and just like couldn't let it go, right? And this anger and rage was negatively affecting her health, right? And so when they finally found the person who did the murder, who perpetuated the murder, and went to court, they went there and they read their victim impact statement, and she read her victim impact statement, with how how this loss impacted her. And at the end, she said to the killer of her brother, "I forgive you. And I have had a vision in which God has told me he loves you as much as my brother, as much as me." And so she said her ability to forgive that way, just like she walked out like where she was floating, right? It was just like such a burden lifted from her, and all of that, it was toxic to her to hold on to all that anger. And just in the words of expressing that forgiveness, it like changed things for her like immediately. I thought that was like to decide that you're
Amazing.
going to forgive somebody who's murdered somebody you love, like I don't like, that's amazing. But just the fact that she did it and the impact on her and her health, right? So, anyways, it was a fantastic story.
Most of the world's religions have forgiveness at their core belief, and most of them, all of them, most of them, have very strong tenet about forgiving those especially who do us wrong, and how
Yeah.
good that is for your soul and for you as a person, and we've learned for your health and well-being, because it is toxic, and holding that. I don't know if I could do it, so I'm not being hypocritical. I don't know if I could forgive somebody that murdered
I don't know
somebody
if
in
I
my
could
family.
either. Yeah.
But I can see where being able to do that, I know when and a lesson you teach all the time that I have to remind myself of is treat yourself like you treat your best friend, right? If your best friend messes up or does something, you don't talk meanly to them. You're like, oh, come on, it's just a little thing. It's no big deal. We'll just move on, clean it up, say we're sorry, whatever we got to do. But with ourselves, often we're like, oh, bad person, well, how could you do this? And we're really hard on ourselves.
Lots of times we're very cutting, very caustic, very tough on ourselves, and that's crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
we need to have the compassion for ourselves so that we can have that compassion for others. We need to forgive ourselves so that we can forgive others, right? Everybody makes mistakes, right? So, yeah. And the more we hold on to that anger and resentment that somebody did something wrong, the more it's hurting us. Then, like, that's the reality of it. I apologized. I forgave somebody today. After that, it inspired me. I had a situation where I thought there was a business dealing where the insurer had made a very punitive decision. And that punitive decision is actually going to cost me a lot of money to protect the people who are going to be affected by this punitive decision. So to protect the client, I'm putting out a whole chunk of money out of my account to protect them from that. And part of it is that basically the insurer knew what we were doing, but never kind of followed through to get the official approval from the higher ups in the insurance company. And so they reversed the transaction, costing all kinds of pain and sorrow for the team members themselves, and then also for the agency that's the client. So anyways, but the fact that I forgave the person that I thought was lied, basically was not truthful in this. I said, this is the way I see it. You don't have to agree, but this is the way I forgive you for that. I can understand how you did that, but man, that was a very painful thing for me. And but I'm going to apologize for my part in it and forgive you for your part. So yeah,
Wow.
so that's I'm gonna try and do that more.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, the money is a big deal, of course, because we're all doing our best to stay afloat. But for you, the pain it caused your clients would have been horrific, and I know that would have been very, very painful to you. And people who know that that's what motivates you. It's not the money. It's about trying to help people and protect them and keep them well and the best they can be. So I can imagine that situation was really painful for you. I'm glad that you got some resolution out of it, but it sounds like a sad situation all the way around. Speaking of that, thanks for sharing that, because I think that sometimes people see other people, and just ordinary people, but think their lives are just no problems. And they see a snapshot of somebody wins an award or somebody is successful at something, and they're like, oh, that person's got it easy, and they've never had a bad day in their lives. I've never met anyone ever who didn't have terrible days and awful things happen to them. And have you've met more people than me. Have you ever met anyone that lived a truly charmed life and that they never had anything go wrong?
I don't think that is a human existence. I don't think it's possible to have a human existing and nothing goes wrong, wheels don't fall off. Yeah, so I don't think that's possible. I mean, there's people that I think minimize the unnecessary suffering in their lives, right? They make good decisions, and then in making those good decisions, they have better relationships, better health, better, all those things work together because they're making better decisions. So they're managing that, right? So that's kind of how I see it working anyway. So, yeah.
It's like a little off topic, but you and I were talking about probiotics, and you were taking a course on fermented foods,
Yes.
kombucha, and have you made any yet, buddy?
Oh, I have made kombucha and sauerkraut, and it is delicious. I am an amazing kombucha and sauerkraut person. The kombucha is not sweet because I didn't set it up to ferment to make the sweetness in it. You have to leave it to do that, because I don't mind the kind of the little
twang.
The twang, the skanky, not skanky. The taste. I like skanky isn't the right word, but
yeah. Those of you who drank kombucha know what I was talking about.
So anyways, it's not sweet and it's not flavored, but I really like it. And the sauerkraut, oh my goodness. The first batch I made had some mold in it. And I still ate some of it because I was I made this, I got to eat it. But anyway,
you ate raw SCOBY. So after that, pretty much whatever, eh?
So I ate, anyways, I ate the sauerkraut I made is great. And it's purple sauerkraut. Have you ever made sauerkraut?
I watched my grandmother make it. Yeah.
Simplest thing in the world. You just use the grater, grate it all into a bowl, throw the salt in, and just mush it with your fingers until you get a whole bunch of liquid in it. Throw it in the container, and then the liquid will be above it. Take one of the cabbage leaves and kind of put it over top as a cap, a little weight on that, put a little piece of paper towel over it and leave it alone for like 10 days or 2 weeks or something. And then it's good to eat. Just like that. Put it in the fridge and away you go.
I think it was a little more complicated when my grandmother made it, but the basics sounded like there was a special pot it went in and all kinds of things, because she was British and she was making it for my German grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
His mother taught her English daughter-in-law how to make sauerkraut. So there was a little bit of extra thrown in there.
Probably that caused a marital friction, I would think, when dad is saying, my mom could do this way better and you cook this stuff, or you make this.
Never my grandmother was tiny, tiny. And my grandfather, I'm the smallest man in our family.
You are? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, big. They're huge Germans. And boy, no one messed with my grandmother. Boy, she played piano her whole life, and she had incredibly strong wrists. And she used to mercy fight us when we were teenagers if we didn't behave. Well, you grab hands like this, and then and she could put my brother and I, even though my brother is 4 inches taller than I am, he's 6'5", and she could just bang on the ground. She had such strong wrists. Boy, taught me respect for little women. I cut him a wide path, man.
Nice.
Anyway, back to what we were talking about. So
yes,
make some sauerkraut for Christmas if you don't want else to do. Share it, give it to people. We can share those things again. going back to Canada Health Survey, and I just love this survey, and it's really good. You should have a read over it. I'll post it up there.
Good.
Is 82% of Canadians say hardship inflicted by the pandemic have given them new appreciation of the importance of generosity.
Yeah.
And yeah,
82%.
Yeah,
82. Wow.
82%. If that isn't a good slap in the chops,
No
right?
kidding. That's amazing, right? Wow.
That's
You
a
know
huge
what?
percentage.
That by itself, like for the pain of the pandemic, to come out with 82% of Canadians having a different perspective, that's a huge deal, right? That's a big deal.
That's bigger than any politics. I mean, when it comes to politics, you can never get that big of a percentage on one side or the other.
No.
So when we're talking 82% of Canadians say that, you know, these hardships gave them a better appreciation and made them feel more inclined to generosity is huge. And then 3/4 said that giving up an important source of joy, like meeting and community and getting together face to face, and giving up those times with those families, they were motivated to include other people in their gatherings and in that experience. And that's always been part of our Christmas experience. We've always had a tradition where we invited anyone when we were students here at the University of Lethbridge. And it's funny because Neil Price, Katrina's boyfriend, bought a car off Neil Price, who I went to university. Fleur and I went to university with in the history department. He works at Davis Pontiac, I think. Hi, Neil, if you're watching. When he asked Katrina, "Oh, you know, who's your family?" And she said, "Oh, you know, us." And he's like, "Whoa! I went to university with them. I love their Christmas parties." He said, "You brought an ornament and then you put it on the tree, and the next year you go back and your ornament would be there." And yeah, we used to have these. Just anyone was invited. You know, people. Nice. Hi, who are you? Who are you connected to? Kind of thing. I'm sure that people wandered in off the street, but and it was for us a great source of joy. And nice. This survey says that people, because they felt what it was like not to have, you know, have a home to go to, not to have, you know, even go over to the neighbors as a tradition or those types of things. They've started to believe in the importance of including more people and inviting more people to those more intimate family gatherings or friend get-togethers and things. Another huge positive thing, right? 3/4. That's big.
Huge. Exactly. And you know, we've talked about this before, that the whole COVID was kind of an event where we kind of saw our interdependency and our interconnection to everybody, each other, and that your health is as important as my health. And we have to kind of be able to kind of look after each other and help each other get what they need so we can all stay healthy. That's kind of, I think this is kind of where those numbers come from, is that's the change in perception I think that many of us have had. So
I think you're psychic. Do you remember the popcorn report? You're old enough to remember Faith Popcorn. She was a futurist, right? She would say, "Oh, this is coming up." Well, you hit the next thing right on the head, because that's what the survey also found, is that you know, the negative financial impact and all of the things that happened during the pandemic, and now we're still feeling them with inflation and those things, really instilled a strong desire in people to help those in need. And like you said, we're, as a nation, more interested in helping other people. 65% of Canadians are more interested in giving and volunteering, which they now believe helps them stay connected, helps others during the pandemic or the post-pandemic. I don't know if we're still in the pandemic or if we're in post-pandemic. I watched an American comedian, Joe Coy. Do you know Joe Coy? He's a Filipino American. Yeah. And Fluffy. There's sort of two of my favorite comedians, and both of them did a post-pandemic show, and they were talking about, you know, when it first came out, they were like 2 weeks, stay in your house. This will be over. No big deal. You know, and then it was like 2 months, stay in your house. It'll all be over. It'll be good. And then 2 years later, it's like, yeah, we don't know what, just stay home. That's the kind of thing. And because of that, 65% of Canadians are saying that, you know, opening up and giving more time, not necessarily money, but just giving their time to people makes
That's beautiful.
them feel more connected, and other people feel more connected to them, which is amazing. That's
Yeah.
fantastic news.
It is. It
So,
is.
you know,
And that generosity, besides money helping, even just the generosity of time, of taking the time to have the conversation, to greet somebody, to talk to them, to, have that's generous as well, right? Taking that time to have that conversation. So to have that
I,
connection.
I just heard in my ear that to answer your early question, that the actual financial donations are predicted to be down by 8% this year, but
Okay.
the number of people donating is up by the earlier percentages we talked
Got
about.
it.
So
Yeah.
I think that reflects, I don't think that's a negative thing. I think the economy is freaking all of us out. I know that we've had to make cuts and make do with less. And we get a little bag of groceries when we used to get a little bit bigger bag of groceries for a few $100. And
yeah, it's true.
so that's interesting, though.
Cool.
Some of the other things that came out of this are young Canadians are expected to donate younger and in larger volumes this year than any other year in Canadian history.
Cool.
6 in 10 adults under the age of 25 plan to donate this year, and that's up 12%. Isn't that amazing?
It is. And you know what? You see young people now. I don't know about you, Scott, but I'm gonna admit something for me. And when I see somebody like your daughters, right? They're very smart about how the world works, they're very engaged with things. They understand what's going on in the world. Like when I was their age, I didn't have a clue, right? Like I didn't know anything about anything except for getting drunk and trying to get a girl to kiss me or something, right? That was all I knew in the world. But they, like young people now, I think are a lot more mature and have a greater awareness of other people and their connection in the world, and what's required to have a good world for all of us, a good life for all of us, right? I think there's there's a will to do that as well, kind of a thing. It seems to me like I have a huge faith in the younger people I meet, because there's so many of them are so articulate, so smart, so have a vision for what the world should look like. It's awesome.
It really is, and the stats back that up. And I think it's interesting because I left home for college when I was 16, turning 17, and I was less worldly and less knowledgeable than my daughters who stayed at home, and because they go to university right here, and they're not in the house that much more, but they live here. And I moved away, and it's like adios, I want to be free. But I didn't actually do anything. I mean, I went to college and later university, but like you said, in terms of how the world works or other people or things, I went to the same course in life as you did: drinking, chasing girls, trying not to get in trouble with the law. Those were my three big things. But yeah, changing, donating. 6 in 10 young adults under 25.
That's amazing.
Not to say there wasn't great people in our time, and certainly churches were more prevalent, and a lot of people did work through the church, but this is just young people knowing the situation of the world and saying, yeah, I want to take some of what I have and share it with people who don't have.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you know what else is beautiful about it is that I donate, but I donate because I have enough, right? I got enough of everything, right? Whereas other people sometimes, like in that age group, they don't have enough. They don't have like a lot of things looked after that way, but they're still going to take a chunk of their income to say, I'm going to help. I'm going to use this to support here. That's so healthy. And so, as opposed to waiting, okay, I'll wait till I have enough until I help anybody else. Well, that could be 10 years. That could be 100 years, right? It might never happen, right? So yeah, that's awesome.
What's even more amazing is this generation now knows the facts that they will never have as much as we did or our parents did.
Mm-hmm.
Owning their own home is going to be a much bigger rarity in their generation than it was in ours. And our parents, it was just automatic, right?
Yeah.
If you were middle-class Canadian, you owned a home.
Yeah. Yeah. But part of that too, this is actually, I found this out the other day. I thought it was quite interesting. It's related to Blacks in the United States, but you can relate it to Indigenous folks in Canada. In essence, the net worth of people based on their their race was like the average was like 172,000 was their net worth. Okay, so if you think of that in terms of this person is going to pass away and those assets are probably going to go to their kids, right? So average 172,000. Asians it was like 206 or something. Whites it was like 198 or something, and then blacks was like $1,400 or something. It was like next to nothing, right? So then how kind of from an intergenerational, there's intergenerational trauma, but here there's the intergenerational transfer of assets that work for many families that aren't going to work for those families. Well, that makes it even harder for them to, get the money to do a deposit, to get a home, to get a mortgage, right? So yes, I understand. I agree entirely. It is tougher today, like the price of what things are, just what they cost, and the expectation, right? The expectation of we've gone where every generation I did better than my parents did, right? I, had more wealth and more wealth and more health and more everything better than what my parents did. And then my hope would be your daughters will have a better life than what we had, right? That may not necessarily become the case anymore, just with what it costs to live.
For most people, it isn't.
Yeah.
Especially worldwide land. My grandparents owned a lot of land. My mom and her brother, much less land. And, my brother and I own a little bit of land and a house on it. Or us in the bank own a little bit of land and a house on it. Maybe he's paid his mortgage off. I don't know. I haven't. And everything predicts that in the girls' time or Caitlin's time that's going to be a rarity. It's going to be a really hard thing for them to do, especially if they live in a big city or their job requires that they live in a big city, right?
Yeah.
Not just lifestyle, but if their means of income require them, it's the latest reports on housing costs are nuts. I don't know how. Anyway, so going back to the positive things. So young people are going to be donating. But 85, this one blew me away, brought a little tear to my eye. You and I love volunteering, and I love working with SAFE and LFGA, where the volunteers do so much, and other organizations. Lethbridge, and I don't think people know this, that I know when I was with the museum, one of the things that amazed me was the percentage of young men and women that volunteered during the wars was incredibly huge per capita. I mean, we're a very giving community, Southern Alberta and Lethbridge and area. But all across Canada, 85% of Canadians believe that volunteering or helping those in need is a very powerful way to experience the spirit of the holidays. So giving rather than receiving. Yeah.
Hallelujah, brothers and sisters of Canada, 85%. That's amazing. That's great.
Isn't that's like a Christmas carol? Giving is better than receiving. And people are starting to believe 85%. That's as close as you're going to get to everybody, I think. That it's a way to experience the spirit of the holidays. What a great thing! Instead of gimme, everything's got to happen here. We're going to have four big meals and decorations and all those things. People are saying, but you know what? Giving, helping somebody else, is a better way to experience the holidays. Yeah. Pretty cool.
It is cool. It is cool.
17% plan to volunteer over the holiday season. Pre-pandemic, it was about a third of that.
Okay.
That's an amazing increase, right?
So 85% recognize the value of volunteering. 17% are going to volunteer over the holidays.
Right.
Is that what you said? So is that kind of, I wonder, a lack of opportunity, or just, hey, I understand conceptually where this is a good thing, but I'm not going to put.
I think there's a lot of fear out there still. I know that when our family's planning and Fleur going to Asia, she's going to go to Japan and Korea. There's a lot of concern about what she's going to be exposed to in terms of health, not just the COVID stuff, but regular flu stuff. I mean, it's cold and flu season, and she's got to come back and get to work, and my health is good, but I couldn't take getting another bacteria. That's where I got the one that landed me in coma for 4 months. So a lot of those things. So I think that discrepancy, I don't think it's as negative as it sounds. I think that the fact that a lot of people recognize that Christmas spirit can be obtained through giving and volunteering
And it could be that a lot of those people, they would like to volunteer during Christmas, but they are essential type workers. They're like shifts all the time kind of a thing, right? That they just don't, that could be as well. So, yeah. So Scott, we're like 45 minutes. How are we doing on our research for today?
Good. We're doing really good. I just want to touch on a couple of other things. Okay.
Great.
So this is from 21 to 22 in that gas. So I think some of these stats are coming out of 21 with a view to 22. But the average total gift per year was about $450 pre-pandemic. Because of the pandemic, the amount has declined by 27.5% to $323.
Yep.
Okay. During the holiday season, the average planned gift is about $102. And the way I chose to interpret this is that more people are volunteering. They're giving gifts of their time and they're sharing more. And they're doing that because they've realized the value of it, but also they don't have as much money to give.
Yeah,
and,
sure, makes sense.
And, you know, in the past, people have said, oh, I gave at the office. I don't have to do anything else. I'm going to go watch the football game, stay bombed the whole holidays, and dread going back to work January 5th or whatever it is. That's changing, right? People don't have as much money to give. That's true. But they're getting out there 17%, and it was a third less pre-pandemic. So that's an increase in volunteers. Still need the money though, right? Can't get away from that. So
makes sense though. But that 85% who see the value in it, right? Man, that just warms my heart. That makes sense that we're gonna be able to it's frustrating when laws and supports for people who need it are so slow to come, but we don't have to wait for that. We can help right now today, right? And somebody in your circle that you might just, maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's have a conversation, maybe it's just saying, hey, I think it's going to be all right, and you know, let's talk more, or how can I help you, right? So, and it is super satisfying if you're in a position that you're in the checkout line at Safeway, and the person, you know, that's in front of you, she looks like she could help with some groceries, and you say, hey, I haven't done anything good for anybody all day. Do you mind if I just buy your groceries for you? And whatever that costs, $50 or $100 or $20, if you have the resources, man, what a great investment for you. You're going to feel fantastic by being able to be of help to that person, right?
Yeah.
Or that person and their kids. Yeah.
Or if you can't afford it, or if you're too young to, you know, put that money out, offer to help carry somebody's groceries who's worried about slipping on the ice.
Perfect.
You know, there's all kinds of ways to give. But I want to close this out with a quote, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it because it said so well. It's by Bruce McDonald, the president and CEO of Imagine Canada, and he this is how he summarizes all of the information in this report. Hope is fundamental to what makes us want to engage fully in life, and giving and volunteering are powerful ways to do that. Helping others creates connections, reduces feelings of isolation, and increases joy. This has been especially important for the mental health of younger Canadians, as well as retirees, during the pandemic and this coming holiday season.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that really, and it closes out with a statement by Akila People, CEO of Mental Health Research Canada. The ability to connect with friends and family is the number one reason for hope and optimism this holiday season. And
nice.
If you don't have family and friends to connect with, go out and find yourself a stranger to connect with. There's all kinds of opportunities. You can do it safely. You can volunteer somewhere. You and I have talked about all the ways you can make connections. If you don't make one connection, it's your fault. There's always somebody you can connect with, right? Always. Call 211. Connect with them if you really need to.
Exactly. Especially if you're feeling like you need a little bit of support, call 211. Have a conversation with somebody. That'd be great. Yeah. Scott, are we having other shows? Are we done for 2022? Are we having two more shows, or what are we doing?
I think what we should do is we should have one up to the 22nd.
Right? On the 22nd?
Yeah. And then take a break until the first week in the new year. Does that work for you?
So for our viewers, we're going to be here next week, the 22nd. I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. Brother Scott will get something together. That's great. So we're going to have a chat next week. Join us for that chat. And Scott, close us out of here, buddy.
From my friend, the acapellist Alan Friesen, and myself, Scott Sweetman, hope, happiness, and health to all of you out there. And we'll see you next week on the Hopeifiers, Thursday at 7, right here.
Beautifully said. Love you, Brother Scott.
You too, Alan.